The city of Dallas never truly sleeps. It only changes masks. By day, it shines with ambition. By night, it hums with unfinished business. On the 21st of November, 1979, one office window still glowed after midnight. Inside sat J.R. Ewing, oil tycoon, manipulator, father, husband, and the most envied man in Texas. But envy, like oil, is highly flammable. He had poured himself another bourbon, the second or maybe the fourth he had stopped counting hours ago. The golden liquid caught the lamplight and flickered across the leather walls of Ewing Oil's headquarters. Outside, the skyline pulsed with money and secrets. Inside, silence wrapped around him like a contract written in invisible ink. The only sound was the slow scratch of his pen across the diary on his desk. He always wrote when business turned dangerous. Words, he believed, were a man's second line of defense. "Tonight I settle accounts," he murmured as the pen moved. The sentence looked final even before the ink dried. He leaned back, loosened his tie, and watched the reflection of the city in the window. Somewhere out there, someone wanted him dead. The thought didn't scare him, it entertained him. Fear was for people who still had something to lose. For weeks, he had felt the pressure building. Cliff Barnes had been sniffing around the drilling leases again, trying to find a clause to use as a noose. Bobby, the good brother, had stopped returning his calls. Sue Ellen had stopped pretending she loved him. Even his own employees avoided his gaze in the elevator. That was new. He once told Bobby that running Ewing Oil was like playing poker with loaded guns instead of cards. You had to bluff, shoot, and smile at the same time. Tonight the cards had changed, and he could smell the gunpowder in the air. The intercom on his desk crackled once, then died. J.R. frowned. He pressed the button, heard nothing. He picked up the phone, heard only static. Then, faintly, a click. Someone was still on the line. He hung up. He had learned long ago that listening too closely could get a man killed. Better to let them think you're unaware. Better to let them come to you. He expected a call from a partner in Houston, a man who owed him more favors than money. The call didn't come. The silence stretched until it became a sound of its own, louder than thunder. He poured another drink, stared at the phone, and smiled. "Fine," he said aloud. "If you won't call, you'll crawl." The diary lay open. He wrote again. "If the call doesn't come, it means someone else got there first. And if someone else got there first, I've got myself a war." The building creaked under the weight of the wind. Outside, rain began to tap against the glass. Inside, J.R. felt the strange calm that comes before every storm he had ever caused. It started as a whisper of movement behind him, leather soles, light and deliberate. Then a metallic click, the sound a revolver makes when it's ready to end a conversation. He turned just enough to catch the reflection in the glass, a figure framed by the office doorway, face hidden by shadow, hand steady. The bullet came before the fear. The explosion of light and sound shattered the stillness, splintering glass and memory. The impact threw J.R. backward. He felt the burn in his shoulder before he heard himself hit the floor. The diary slammed shut. The lamp flickered, then went out. For a moment he lay perfectly still, tasting iron, feeling his pulse hammer against the marble. The shooter hesitated one breath, two, and then the footsteps retreated down the hallway. J.R. opened his eyes, stared at the ceiling, and laughed a short, dry sound like a man congratulating fate for having good aim but bad luck. "You missed," he whispered. When he woke, everything was white walls, sheets, faces. The steady beeping of hospital machines replaced the hum of his office. His left arm was strapped tight. His chest hurt when he breathed, But he was alive, and that was what mattered. Bobby was standing at the window, jaw tight, hands folded. Sue Ellen sat beside the bed, eyes swollen, a glass of untouched water in her hand. "What happened?" Bobby asked quietly. "What always happens," J.R. croaked. "Someone mistook business for revenge." Sue Ellen turned away. Bobby glared. "You could have been killed." "I was," J.R. said, and closed his eyes again. Outside, reporters gathered like vultures. By noon, the world had one question: who shot J.R. Ewing? He didn't answer. He couldn't, not yet. The truth wasn't ready. Days later, he demanded the diary back. The nurse hesitated. "Sir, it's still got blood on it." "So do I," he said. "Bring it anyway." He turned to the last page he had written, the ink smudged by his own hand. Beneath it, he added new lines, his handwriting slower now, but no less sharp. "They shot me to make a point. I just haven't decided which one." He closed the book and smiled. Every wound was a lesson, and he was a quick learner. Hospitals are full of ghosts that walk before midnight. J.R. heard the click of heels long before he saw her. Kristen Shepherd entered quietly, eyes red but practiced. She looked at him like a child, looking at fire drawn in, terrified, unable to stop. "J.R., I didn't mean." He lifted a hand. "Don't lie, honey. It's late, and lies lose their shine after midnight." She flinched. "You ruined me." "Sweetheart," he said, voice soft as poison. "I ruin everybody eventually. That's why they pay me so well." Tears welled up, but never fell. She left without another word. He waited until the door closed, then opened the diary again. "It's always the ones you think you own that pull the trigger." At South Fork, the air had changed. The ranch still looked the same: white fences, green fields, sunsets fit for postcards. But inside, the walls listened. Miss Ellie tried to hold Sunday dinners like nothing had happened. Bobby carved roast beef in silence. Sue Ellen drank her wine and avoided J.R.'s eyes. Lucy stared at her plate. Even the help moved quieter, as if the floors had grown fragile. J.R. played his part, charming, wounded, dangerous. When Bobby asked him again who might have done it, J.R. smiled. "Who hasn't wanted to?" That night, he wrote, "They all look guilty, because they all are. Family isn't about blood, it's about leverage." The police questioned him in his hospital room first, then again at home. Every detective carried the same notebook, the same suspicion, the same inability to play his game. They asked about Kristen, about Cliff, about the union strike he had crushed 2 months before, about a senator who'd lost money in one of his deals. He answered each question with the precision of a lawyer and the charm of a liar. When they left, he wrote, "The thing about guilt is it behaves better when you feed it just enough truth." Weeks later, the investigation stalled. Too many suspects, not enough courage. Dallas moved on, but J.R. didn't. By March, the wound had healed into a scar shaped like a question mark. Every time he caught his reflection, it reminded him that not even steel men are bulletproof. He returned to Ewing Oil the same day he was cleared to drive. The building smelled of fresh paint and fear. His office door had been replaced, the bullet hole patched, the carpet new. But he noticed something the others didn't: the mark on the floor where his blood had seeped under the rug. They hadn't cleaned that part. Good. He liked a reminder. He sat at his desk, opened the diary, and wrote, "Fear is just memory with better lighting." Then he picked up the phone and started calling names: old allies, new debts, every man who had ever smiled too quickly in his presence. The bullet hadn't slowed him down. It had clarified him. J.R. Ewing was back on television, newspapers, and whispered conversations at dinner tables. The man who couldn't be killed, they called him. He liked that. He used the sympathy to sign new contracts, to squeeze old enemies, to rebuild Ewing Oil stronger than before. Every meeting began with the same joke. If I can survive that shot, I can survive your terms. But at night, when the office was empty and the bourbon was gone, he'd catch himself staring at the diary again. The same question circled him like a vulture. Not who pulled the trigger, but why did it stop at one? He wrote, "They missed once. Nobody misses twice, unless they're told to." One evening he found Sue Ellen on the porch at South Fork, staring out at the fields. The sun was setting, painting her hair in the same gold the city used for money. "You never asked if I did it," she said. "I didn't have to," he replied. "You don't have the aim." She laughed softly. "You think this is funny?" "No, I think it's predictable." She turned to him then, eyes sharp. "You ruin everything you touch, J.R. One day, it'll be you left in the dark." He poured 2 glasses of bourbon, handed her one, and raised his. "Then I'll make sure it's my kind of darkness." She didn't drink. He did. That night, the diary read, "She loves me like a funeral loves flowers." Weeks later, another visitor arrived unexpected, uninvited, unannounced. A tall man in a gray hat, the kind that says, "Authority," without asking permission. "Mr. Ewing," he said, stepping into the office, "I'm here about the shooting." J.R. gestured toward the chair. "You're late. The killer's probably retired by now." The man smiled thinly. You'd be surprised how long people keep secrets. Something about his eyes bothered J.R. Too calm, too empty. He noticed the man's hand linger near his coat pocket. A gun, maybe. Or maybe just nerves. After he left, J.R. found a single bullet casing on the edge of his desk. Not from the night he was shot. The metal was clean, polished, new. It wasn't a threat. It was a message. He opened the diary. "They don't want me dead. They want me afraid. And they still don't understand I don't do fear." By summer, J.R. had turned the shooting into strategy. Every rumor became leverage. Every sympathy became a sale. He bought back shares of Ewing Oil from men who thought he wouldn't return. He smiled while signing papers that made enemies poor and friends grateful. To the world, he looked like a survivor. Inside, he was taking inventory of betrayal, of loyalty, of ammunition. One night he returned to his office alone. The moonlight spilled across the desk, silver on mahogany. The bullet mark in the wood still caught the light differently from the rest. He ran his finger along it, felt the groove, and whispered, "You should have finished the job." He opened the diary for the first time in months. "The difference between a wound and a warning," he wrote, "is how much you learn from it." A few months later, South Fork glittered again. A celebration, they said. J.R.'s return, his recovery, his empire reborn. Music, laughter, the smell of barbecue and perfume mixed in the summer air. Bobby toasted to family. Miss Ellie thanked God. Sue Ellen smiled politely. And J.R. looked around the table, seeing not relatives, but suspects. He clinked his glass. "To whoever shot me," he said, smiling wide. "Thanks for the motivation." The laughter that followed was nervous, hollow, real. After midnight, he slipped away to the study. He poured another drink, opened the diary, and wrote, "Every party ends when the lights come back on. I just make sure I'm the one holding the switch." Months turned to years. The shooting faded into legend. But J.R. Ewing never forgot. He kept the bullet casing in his drawer beside the diary. He kept the scar under his shirt. Both reminded him that power wasn't permanent, it just had good lawyers. One night, long after South Fork had gone quiet, he sat at his desk again. Outside, thunder rolled across the plains, same as it had that night years ago. He opened the diary to a blank page and began to write, slowly, carefully. They tried to kill the man. They failed. But maybe they killed something else, maybe the part of me that ever trusted anyone. He stopped, read the words, and nodded. Then he wrote the last line he would ever put in that book. The bullet didn't end me. It finished becoming me. He closed the diary, placed it inside a drawer, and turned off the lamp. The room fell into darkness. Outside, lightning flashed, just long enough to catch the faint glint of another bullet hole one higher, hidden near the window frame. No one had ever noticed it. Not even J.R. And for the first time since that night, silence truly filled the office. You've been listening to J.R. Ewing's diary, where power always leaves a scar and truth never comes cheap. If you lived through the Dallas years, tell us, where were you when the world asked, who shot J.R.? Subscribe and join us next week as we open another page from the man who never ran out of enemies, only ink.